In 2020, I met with my client, Brenda. I met with my client, Brenda, back in 2020. She said, you know what? I've been working with you for between 10 and 15 years. I think I'm ready to retire. I'm 64 years old. I've been working since 1984. I started at the government when I was 28, and it's time for me to, the pandemic, it was just too much. And she, you know what she said to me? She said, Raphael, it's time for me to go. So we met up. We met up at her job. We met at Department of Education, and we said, "Hey, we're just going to go over all the numbers, and we're going to see how long that money is going to potentially last you. The money that you have, and that's the money between her pension, her Social Security, and her TSP." Now, keep in mind, Brenda was a GS-14. She had multiple degrees, and she was the matriarch of our family. But one of the problems that we had is that she was recently divorced. One of the kids were leaving at home. She was able to keep the house, but by keeping the house, that also came with a mortgage. So she had to now take over the mortgage, and she wasn't getting much help. And then one of her son, who had graduated from college, he was now back home living at the house. So we looked at her pension, which is good because she's been working 36 years. So her pension was good. It was solid. We looked at her Social Security, it was really good, and she has quite a bit in her TSP, so it made sense. It was like, this is you've done pretty good for yourself. But the problem is, she's the matriarch for the family. She's the one that the family depends on when they say, hey, we need to plan this, we need to do this, we need financing for this. So her monthly expenses were through the roof. So her Social Security and her first pension wasn't enough to be able to cover what she needed to cover for the responsibilities that she had to cover. So when we finally went through her expenses and we realized that her money is probably going to run out around 76, 77 years old. This is a lady who was always upbeat, always very confident, would sometimes even give me, when I was younger, would give me financial advice. This is the first time in my life I got a chance to see her confidence dip, and I got to see like a stern look on her face. And it was like, wait a minute, now that I've actually seen the visual of how my retirement plays out, it's not as funny anymore. Things have gotten really serious. So tonight, what I'm going to do is, I want to kind of give you an idea step by step on how I helped Brenda during the pandemic get from where she was then to where she is now. So one of the things that we're going to talk about today is we're going to talk about the triple tax trap, which is the FERS pension, your TSP withdrawals, and your Social Security. Now with the FERS pension, your FERS pension, if you're not familiar on how to calculate your FERS pension, it's usually your 3 high, which I know a lot of y'all are familiar with that term, times 1.1% if you're retiring after 62, 1% if you're retiring before 62, and then you multiply that times the amount of years of service you have with the government. And the number that you come up with will be your annual FERS pension income before taxes, before benefits are taken out. But keep in mind, that's money that we're going to be dependent on when we retire, and that money will be taxed, which is why it's a part of the triple tax trap. Next, we have the TSP withdrawals. Now, with the TSP withdrawals, assuming that the majority of you have your money on the traditional side, that money is going to be taxed too. So that's also money that we're going to be using for income and retirement. That money is also going to be taxed. The last one is the Social Security. Social Security, we're going to start drawing, most of us are going to start drawing Social Security when we retire, either at 62, 65, 70. Some of y'all will do the first supplement, the Social Security supplement at 57, who are retiring a little bit earlier, may have taken a buyout. But guess what? That money is going to be taxed also. So that's why we call this the triple tax trap. So we have a poll. If you would go over, click on polls, I want y'all to reach out to me and y'all tell me which one of these matters the most to y'all right now. From the research that you've done, which one of these would you deem the most important? So next we're going to talk about why most advisors miss this completely. And this is the general advisor playbook versus the federal retirement reality. You could go out and talk to your friend who works in the private industry, your friend who's a business owner, and they have an advisor, and I'm sure their advisor has done a lot of things for them and earned them a lot of money, got them good returns, all types of things, all the things that you want to hear. But a general advisor doesn't know the specifics of the federal government benefits and the details of the TSP that's different from a typical 401k. So the reality is, some of these people you get with a general advisor that somebody may have referred you to, you'd be like, oh, this guy's good. This is my financial advisor. He's done this. He's done X, Y, Z for me. And then you get him to try to do a plan for you, and you leave the meeting feeling uncomfortable. And that's because he's not a specialist when it comes to federal government benefits. So that's the importance on dealing with somebody who knows specifically about these federal government benefits and has what else to say, this kind of has experience in dealing with federal government employees. Now, the federal advantage. So we have the private sector. Generally, the private sector is a two-legged stool because you're going to have your pension and then you're going to have your Social Security. So there's two things. So there's not a lot of wiggle room. That's the difference with of somebody in private and somebody who's with the federal government. Somebody with the federal government, we're going to have our FERS pension, we're going to have our Social Security, and we're also going to have our TSP. So we have that three-legged stool rather than just being a two-legged stool. Now, the great escape, your Roth conversion window. So you get your government job, you're working, hopefully you learn your benefits while we're going through, like you learn your benefits while in the 20, 25, 30 years while you're working with the federal government, and then you retire. So when you retire, you got to think you don't have a long window. You have a narrow window from when you retire to you turn 74 and they start doing the required minimum distributions, which means it's basically forced taxation. They send you money out of your TSP automatically because you haven't taken anything out yet, and they take taxes out of that. And you didn't consent to it. It's just what happened. It's the required minimum distributions. But during that time, let's say you retire at 62 years old, and the required minimum distributions don't start till 74. That means you have 12 years to try to convert some of that money that you had in the traditional over to the Roth side. So you have 12 years to convert some of that money that you had in the traditional over to the Roth side. So some of my clients right now are just now figuring out the difference on how to Roth. A lot of my clients say, hey, I just thought once you turn 59 and a half that they're not taking taxes out when I take my TSP no more. That's not the case. At some point in time through that 12 years, it will be of your best interest to try to convert some of that traditional over to the Roth side. And once it's on the Roth side and then you withdraw it, what you see is what you get. The money that you want to take out and that you see, if I see I have $30,000 on the Roth side, that means I could pull out $30,000 if necessary. But one of the most important things is the reason why this Roth window is after retire is because when you're working for the federal government, you're maxing out on your income. Once you convert some of the money from traditional to Roth, it's looked at as income. So if I take out $30,000 out of my Roth and I made 120, now it's going to look like on my returns that I made 150,000, and it could push you into a higher tax bracket. So we wait to do those Roth conversions after our income is going to drop, and it's inevitable that our income is going to drop after we retire from the federal government. So that's during that 10, 12, 15-year window is when we want to do the Roth conversions before the RMD years start, which we see right here at 74 years old. Go to the next slide. So one of the common things is people say, "Hey, I don't want to pay the taxes now." We have, like at Fed Legacy, and I want to say something. I've been a benefits. Some of you may notice me or recognize me. I've been a benefits coordinator for the union AFGE for about since let's say maybe 2011. So I've dealt with the union benefits and some of the things that they have when it comes to dealing with taxes when you're retiring. So I know that's the thing. That's something that Fed Legacy we kind of specialize in. It's like, hey, I don't want to pay taxes now. Is there a way where I can minimize the taxes that I'm paying before those required minimum distributions start? That's something we can't absolve you from paying taxes altogether, but we can show you how to minimize the amount of taxes that you pay. And a lot of people also ask, why is my advisor and why has he never mentioned this? And I just go back to the point that I made before. That's because he may not specifically specialize in federal government benefits. So if you can see right here, this is survival story versus legacy story. So you have somebody who is just trying to survive, just trying to get by, and just like asking the person who sits at the cubicle next to him, hey, what should I do with this? Is there anybody I could talk to? Which fund should I put my money in? Or you could have a legacy story. And what the legacy story is, get somebody to kind of paint a picture for you. Like what's gonna be my legacy when I leave this earth? What am I leaving behind? What are people gonna remember about me? So one of the third poll that we're putting up today is, when is the last time you reviewed your TSP with your retirement professional? If you have a retirement professional at all, when was the last time you got a chance to review your TSP with them? And when was the last time you reviewed your TSP with anybody? So you can go over to the polls and answer that question.